I never thought my life would take a turn like this. Please, if you're reading this, don't make the same mistakes I did. That morning, the house was too still. The kind of quiet that wraps around you and makes your thoughts louder. I had just finished my second cup of coffee, sitting alone at the kitchen table. Soft sunlight streamed through the blinds, painting golden stripes on the floor. The rain from last night had washed everything clean. The air felt fresh, like the kind of day you want to throw open every window and just breathe. Joshua was upstairs, or at least I thought so. My son, my only child. He was 29 now, and after a rough breakup, he had come back home to stay with me for a while. I didn't think twice about it. That's what mothers do when your child needs you, no matter how grown they are. You make space for them. And I missed him. I truly did. He'd always been a quiet soul, thoughtful, observant in ways most people aren't. As a teenager, he preferred his own world, his guitar, his sketchbook. There was always something deep behind his eyes, something he never put into words. Even now, as a man, that hadn't changed. Maybe that's why I admired him. But lately, something between us felt different. Nothing loud or obvious. Just small things. The way his hand rested a little longer on my back when he walked by. The way his eyes held mine a moment too long. As if he was seeing someone else, not the mother who raised him, but someone else entirely. And worse, I noticed myself, thinking things I shouldn't. Feelings I didn't want. Thoughts I pushed deep down, locking them away before they could breathe. That morning he came down in a t-shirt and joggers. Barefoot, hair messy from sleep. His voice was soft when he greeted me. Morning. And something fluttered inside. Warmth, nervousness, something I didn't know how to name. But I knew it didn't belong. Want some eggs? I asked, trying to push the feeling away. He leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, watching me. Double quotes. Yeah. Sure. I turned toward the stove and cracked eggs into the pan. But I could feel his eyes on me, steady, heavy, and too close, even from across the room. I wasn't dressed up, just a fitted tank top and some loose house shorts. But I suddenly felt like every inch of me was too visible. Mum, he said. I glanced over my shoulder. You ever think it's strange? He asked. Being alone in a house with someone who knows everything about you. I blinked. You mean like you and me? He smiled, but not in a teasing way. It was serious. Yeah, I gave a soft laugh. I don't think of it as strange. You're my son. I know, he said. But sometimes it feels like we're more than that. Like there's something different about us. My hands froze. Over the frying pan. My heart thudded in my chest. Too fast. Too loud. The eggs were ready. But my appetite was gone. When we sat down to eat, the silence between us had changed. It wasn't comfortable anymore. It was heavy, like the air was thick with words we hadn't said. I picked at my food, careful not to meet his eyes. Then he spoke. You look really nice today. I looked up, surprised. Thanks. That's sweet. I'm not just being nice, he added. You look beautiful. That word beautiful, it landed in my chest like heat. His compliments weren't new, but this one felt different, it felt dangerous. I stood up quickly. I need to start some laundry. Can you rinse the dishes? Sure, he said. His tone unreadable. Upstairs in the laundry room, I leaned against the wall and closed my eyes. My thoughts were tangled. A mess. Wrong. I told myself to stop, to forget all of it. But the truth, I didn't feel disgusted. I didn't feel afraid. I felt curious. I felt alive. And I hated that I didn't hate it. Later that day, the rain returned. Thunder rolled low and soft through the sky. Raindrops tapped gently against the windows. The whole house dimmed, like it was settling in for the night. I lit a candle in the living room, curled up on the couch with a book. But I couldn't focus. Then Joshua came down. He had a blanket draped over his shoulder. "Mind if I join you?" he asked. "Of course not," I replied, keeping my voice steady. He sat beside me, closer than usual. I didn't move away. We sat in silence, just the sound of rain and the flicker of candlelight. Then he pulled the blanket over both of us, his arm brushing mine. "I used to do this when I was little," he said softly. "During storms. Snuggle next to you." "I remember," I said. He leaned his head on my shoulder. I froze, but I didn't pull away. It felt nice. Comforting. And that terrified me. "You smell the same," he whispered. "Like warm skin and soap." I closed the book. My heart was pounding. "Joshua, I'm sorry," he said, his voice barely there. "I don't want to make you uncomfortable. I've been feeling things I don't know how to ignore anymore." I turned toward him. His face was close. His eyes were deep, searching. Mine. "We can't talk about this," I said, barely above a whisper. "But we feel it," he said. "You do too, don't you?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. He leaned back, creating space between us. Respectful. Quiet. "I'm sorry," he said again. "I'll go upstairs." He stood up, but I reached out and caught his wrist. "Don't go yet." He looked down at me, surprised. "Just stay," I said. "No more talking, just stay." So he did. We didn't touch again. We didn't speak. But the silence between us was louder than anything I'd ever known. And in that silence, I realized I was standing at the edge of something I couldn't name. Something real. Something terrifying. Something dangerously close. When I turned around, there he was. Barefoot again. Hair tousled, sleepied. Shirt stretched across his chest in a way I tried not to notice. Hesmalled, carefully, softly. Not like someone who had forgotten Wade said the night before, but like Simeon who was still carrying it in hishest. "Morning," he said. "Morning," I replied, forcing lightness into my voice. "Coffee's fresh." "Thanks," he said, walking past me close enough that I felt fluent from his skin. He poured himself a cup and leaned against the opposite counter. For a moment, neither of us spoke. I could feel him watching me gain like he had the day before. Only this time I couldn't pretend not to notice. I lifted my eyes and met his gaze. And there it was. That same intensity. The same question he didn't ask out loud. "Didn't sleep much?" He said. "Me either," I replied. He took a slow sip of his coffee and set the cup down. "I wasn't trying to confuse you last night, Mum. I didn't mean to. Make you uncomfortable." "You didn't make me uncomfortable," I say before I could stop myself. "You made me feel something I didn't expect." His eyes flickered with surprise. Yeah. Beer stretched tight between us, a thin thread pulling us towards something Westall hadn't dared to name. I turned away and started rinsing out a bowl I wasn't really using just to keep my hands busy. "I think we need to take a step back," I say gently. "Get some space. Do you want me to move out?" he asked. It froze. That hadn't been what I meant, but maybe it was. I didn't know. "No," I said quietly. "Just maybe spend the day out. Get some air. We both need it." He nodded slowly. "Okay, I'll go visit Matt. Maybe grab a bite in town." "Good," I said, trying to smile. After he left, the house was silent again. But this time, it felt different. Not peaceful, hollow. I wandered room to room like a ghost, picking up blankets, folding laundry, wiping already clean counters. My mind kept replaying his voice, his touch, his words, the things she didn't say, the way his eyes had lingered on my lips, how my body had responded without permission. I didn't recognize myself in those moments. Not the version of me I had been for decades, the reliable wife, the doting mother, the respectably Gerber, the one who always had things was and never made the wrong choice. But I wasn't just that anymore. I was a woman who had spent years signaling parts of herself, hiding longings that had gone unanswered. And suddenly someone had looked at me, really looked, and seen what was underneath, even if that someone was my son. When Joshua came home later that evening, I was in the living room again, curled up in the same corner of the couch, trying to read, but failing miserably. He came in quietly and sat across from me, not too close this time. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded, not looking up. He waited a moment before speaking again. "I thought a lot today, about last night, about everything." I closed the book and met his eyes. He looked so serious, so grounded, like he wasn't rushing into anything, just being honest. "I didn't mean to say those things to pressure you," he continued. "But they're not new thoughts. I've been feeling them for a long time, and I didn't want to pretend anymore." I swallowed. "I don't know what to say, Joshua. You don't have to say anything. Just let me honest. That's all I'm asking." I nodded slowly, unsure of what I was inviting by. Doing so, "I look at you," he said quietly, "and I didn't just see my mother. I see a woman who's beautiful and strong and kind. A woman I feel close to in ways I've never felt with anyone. My breath caught. "I know how it sounds," he added, "but I can't lie about it anymore. Not to you, not to myself." I sat there, heart pounding, thought spinning. This wasn't just some emotional accident. He had felt it longer than I realized. Maybe I had too. "You think this can go anywhere?" I asked barely, above a whisper. He looked at me with an honesty that made my chest ache. "I don't know, but I'd rather explore it slow than bury it and regret not ever knowing." I looked away, my eyes beginning to sting. He got up and walked toward me slowly, carefully, and sat beside me, not touching, just being there. The room was dim again, the storm clouds outside rolling in like yesterday. It was as if the weather had decided to match our mood. Thick, heavy, charged. He reached for my hand. I let him take it. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't impulsive. It was quiet, real, and terrifying. I squeezed his fingers gently. "Let's not trash. I need time." He nodded. "Take off. Time you need." We sat there for what felt like forever, just holding hands. And I realized that even in the middle of all this confusion, there was something else too. Peace. Because for the first time in years, I didn't feel invisible. I felt seen. The days that followed felt like we were living in the pause between heartbeats. Joshua. And I didn't speak about it again, not directly. But everything had changed. The way we moved around each other. The way our eyes met across the room. The unspoken weight in the air that never quite left us. It was all different now. Familiar routines now carried an unfamiliar charge. We fell into a quiet rhythm. Coffee in the morning. Soft readings in the kitchen. Passing each other in the hallway like we were afraid to brush skin. There was something delicate about it, like we both knew we were standing on thin ice, and one wrong step could send everything cracking beneath us. But even with all that care, it was still there, the current, and it didn't fade. If anything, it grew stronger the more we tried to ignore it. One night, maybe a week later, I was folding laundry in my bedroom. My door was open, and I could hear the soft creak of the stairs as Joshua came up from the basement. His footsteps paused, just outside my room. "You need help?" he asked gently. I looked up and gave him a tired smile. "I think I've got it." Still, he stepped in slowly, like he was asking permission without words. I didn't stop him. "You walked to the edge of my bed and picked up a pair of pillowcases, starting to fold them without looking at me. We worked side by side in silence. The kiss that wasn't awkward, but full. Like both of us knew how fragile this moment was. "I've been thinking," he said quietly, his hands still moving. I didn't answer right away. "About us," he added. I stopped folding and looked at him. "Do you ever wonder," he said, still not meeting my eyes, "why something that feels so natural could be considered so wrong?" I sat down on the edge of the bed. "It's not about how it feels. It's about what it means." Joshua finally looked at me. "Then tell me what it means, Mom, because I don't know anymore. I just know I feel close to you in a way I've never felt with anyone else. And I don't want to pretend like that doesn't matter." I couldn't speak. The words I wanted or needed weren't there. Only the weight of what we both already knew. He stepped closer and sat beside me, the bed creaking softly beneath us. "I've always felt safe with you," he said. "But this, whatever this is, it's different. And it's not just about the past. It's how we're now as people, as adults." He nodded slowly. My hands clenched in my lap. "I know. I'm not asking you for anything," he said, voice gentle. "No decisions, no promises, just honesty. Even if it scares you." I turned my head and looked at him. Really looked, and I saw it all. His vulnerability, his sincerity, the way he was holding back, giving me space to breathe even as his emotions trembled under the surface. So I gave him the honesty he asked for. "I felt it too," I said, and I tried to bury it. Tell myself I am imagining things, that I am confusing love with something else, but I'm not. "I know what I feel when I look at you now." He exhaled like he'd been holding that breath for days. "But it's complicated," I continued. "This isn't a book or a movie. This is our life, our family. And if we do anything without thinking it through, we can never undo it." "I know," he whispered. We sat in silence again, but it wasn't thievy. It was careful, thoughtful. Then he reached over slowly and took my hand in his again, the same way he had before. But this time I didn't feel the panic. I felt clarity, the kind that doesn't come from knowing the answers, but from finally admitting the truth. I turned my hand over and laced my fingers with his. "We're not doing anything tonight," I said softly. "But I want you to stay here. Just sit with me. Talk like we used to, like we still can." He smiled. "Okay." We moved up to the head of the bed, sitting against the pillows, shoulder to shoulder. The night moved around us slowly. We talked about old memories, about the people we'd loved and lost, about regrets and dreams. It felt raw and beautiful and terrifying. At some point, he shifted so that his head rested gently on my shoulder. I felt his breath against my skin, and I realized something I hadn't let myself admit until then. I wasn't scared of him. I was scared of myself, of what it meant to let someone see me that clearly, to accept love from someone who had once been a part of me, but now stood beside me as something new. Not a boy, a man. And maybe that was Theppa I hadn't been ready to face. When the clock passed midnight, I turned to him and said, "You should go get some sleep." He looked up at me, eyes heavy with emotion. "You sure?" "Yes," I said. "But thank you for tonight, for being patient, for not rushing me. I'll wait as long as you need," he said. "Even if this never goes anywhere. I just want you to feel loved because you are." He leaned in and kissed my cheek slowly, tenderly, and then he stood, walking out of the room without looking back. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I was caught between two impossible choices. I felt like I had time. The days that followed were the calmest I'd felt in years. Something had shifted again, but this time it wasn't sharp or confusing. It was quiet, like both of us had exhaled some deep tension we'd been carrying for too long. Joshua gave me space, not with distance, but with gentleness. He was still here, still helping around the house, still making coffee in the mornings and asking about my day. But he didn't press. He didn't bring anything up unless I did. And that, madam, feels safe. More than anything else, it reminded me why I'd always trusted him. Why, even when my thoughts turned sideways, I never felt afraid. One evening, I was in the garden behind the house, trimming back the roses that had grown wild after a week of rain. The air smelled like earth and fresh-cut stems, and the sky had that golden glow that comes right before dusk. I heard the back door open and close, followed by footsteps on the stone path. I didn't have to turn to know it was him. Need help? He asked. You just want an excuse to avoid doing dishes? I teased without looking at him. He laughed and walked over, taking the shears from my hand, guilty. But also I just wanted to be near you. I stood and wiped my hands on me jeans. You always were my shadow when you were little. And now I met his eyes. Now you're something else. We didn't speak for a while. He trimmed a few branches, careful and slow, and I picked up the fallen stems, placing them into the bucket at my feet. Then, out of nowhere, he asked, "Do you regret anything?" I looked at him carefully. About what? About this? About what we've been feeling? About what we've admitted? I shook my head. No, I don't regret honesty ever. It's what comes after that scares me. He nodded, setting shears down gently on the edge of planter. I've spent so much of my life not saying what I mean, especially to the people who matter. I don't want to do that anymore. I leaned against the wooden fence, the breeze brushing a strand of hair across my cheek. I understand that more than you know. He stepped closer. Not too close, just enough. I think about the lines, he said. Fine visible ones that tell us what's acceptable, what's not. I think about how much of 4 lives we spend staying inside those lines, even when they're drawn by people who don't know anything about our hearts. I felt my throat tighten. Those lines exist for a reason. Joshua. I know, he said gently, that maybe some of them aren't meant to last forever. He reached for my hand again. By now, the gesture felt familiar, not like something stolen, but something shared, and let him take it. And in that moment, I realized how far we'd come. We hadn't trashed anything. We hadn't crossed any boundaries we couldn't come back from. We just let something unfold carefully, honestly. And that means something. That night, we sat on the couch together, side by side under the same blanket, just like we had during that stormy evening weeks ago. But this time, my head rested on his shoulder. His arm was around me. There was no fear, no guilt, only warmth. We watched an old movie. I couldn't even remember which one. I barely paid attention. I was too focused on the slow rise and fall of his chest, the way his fingers stroked mine gently. When the credits rolled, I turned to him. I don't know what this is, I said quietly. I don't know what it'll become, but I know how it feels, and I know I didn't want to pretend anymore. He looked at me with such tenderness that I felt my whole body soften. Neither do I, he said. He leaned in slower than anyone ever had, giving me all the space in the world to change Mimind. I didn't. Our lips touched, not angry, not desperate, but searching, questioning. And when we pulled apart, I felt no shame, only closeness, unlike clarity. We didn't say anything for a long time after that. Words felt too small. Eventually, we said goodnight. He kissed my forehead and went upstairs, leaving me alone in the quiet. How withinly my heart beat, and the truth of what had happened between us.